In a letter to Samuel Adams, John Adams wrote, "All good government is and must be Republican, conveying his support of a government in which the people have an essential share in the sovereignty, rather than direct democracy, which was not feasible over the physical size of the United States." Events such as the Civil War and World War I challenged the effectiveness of the solely representative government, eventually expanding it into the democratic republic we have today.
In Federalist 10, James Madison defines a republic as the delegation of the government to a small number of citizens elected by the rest. In politics, Aristotle defines a direct democracy as the rule of the people and the corrupt form of a polity, or mixed constitution. Direct democracy is susceptible to mob rule, as the majority can constantly overrule the minority. James Madison argued in Federalist 10 that in an extended republic, it is less probable that a majority of the whole will have a common motive and control the minority. Thus, representative government can overcome mob rule, the influence of factions, and abide by Cicero's idea that the majority should not have the predominant power.
The framers incorporated Plato's idea of rule of the elite into government by restricting voting to land-owning white males and by limiting the number of representatives. The failure of the Articles of Confederation demonstrated to the founders that the purely representative government required other limitations. Montesquieu's idea of separation of powers was incorporated into the Constitution with checks and balances. There were even layers of representation within the government by allowing the House to be elected by the people, the Senate to be elected by the legislatures, the judiciary to be confirmation, and the president by the Electoral College.
The reasons the founders wanted a republican government, protection of minority, prevention of mob rule, and rule of the elite are still relevant today. The Senate protects the minority of the population in small states from the majority in large states. Through the court case Marbury v. Madison, judicial review allows the judicial branch to check legislation that may benefit the majority while depriving the minority.
The circuit court case Kerr v. Hickenloopen is challenging the provision in the Colorado Constitution that requires all taxes to be changed by referendum on the grounds that the provision violates Article 4, Section 4, that guarantees to every state in this union a republican form of government. They believe the provision has taken direct democracy too far, endangering the common good because most people will not vote to raise their own taxes, even when necessary. The founders' intention of ensuring rule of the elite through a republican form of government has now morphed into the rule of the educated and partisan, a negative consequence of the founders' original desires. Gerrymandering allows those elite to guarantee themselves offices, overstepping republican government.
Jefferson proclaims in the Declaration of Independence that all men are created equal, a statement echoed by President Abraham Lincoln in the Gettysburg Address. The writers of the Declaration pledged their lives, fortunes, and sacred honor when they signed the document, a treasonous act against the British monarchy, punishable by death.
President Lincoln stated at Gettysburg that the brave men, living and dead, who struggled here have consecrated it. They had struggled to attain a nation based truly on equality, one that secures the blessings of liberty as outlined in the preamble of the Constitution.
Alice Paul, a leader of the National Women's Party, underwent brutal prison conditions after organizing marches to pass the 19th Amendment. Our nation has evolved from the republic envisioned by the founders to the representative democracy it is today through struggles like Alice Paul's to expand the vote.
Another great epic of voting expansion, the Civil War, as described by the New York Times in 1867, touches everything and leaves nothing as it found it. It leaves us a different people in everything. From those battles stemmed the 14th and 15th Amendment, which revolutionized our government with the definition of citizenship, due process, incorporation, and the expansion of suffrage to African American men. These adaptations were among the many that altered the idea of representative government, resulting in the American representative democracy we have today. Thank you.
418. Not bad. They get dinged. Do they get dinged on something?
Well, they would, but, you know,
We're editing.
at this point, yeah, they're.
Yeah, you're still in it. Okay.
So,
Okay.
what is the difference in definition and meaning between the words republic and democracy? And why is that difference important?
A republic is a government where the people are represented through other people that they have elected, essentially. whereas a democracy is where the people themselves directly vote on things.
The main difference is just that connection with in a republic, there's one person between you and government. And in a democracy, you are right next to government. You are the government basically because you're voting directly for everything. So that's the main distinction between those two.
Which branch of government best represents the will of the people? As a citizen, I haven't seen anything that really represents how I feel. But which branch, for many, many years, which branch of the government do you think represents best people?
One could argue the judiciary because we elect members of the Electoral College who vote for the president, who then will choose members of the Supreme Court. Now, their decisions can have phenomenal changes and influence in our daily lives.
I would say the legislative branch because we directly vote for our representatives and senators, as of the 17th Amendment, that serve us at the Capitol, and they are there to portray our rights, and whether that's through the delegate or trustee form of representation, either way they do what's best for the common good for the long term as well.
I would have to agree with Lisa that the judicial branch can be viewed as the one that best represents the will of the people, despite the fact that most judges would prefer you not to say that they represent anything, especially the Supreme Court. In its decisions, it very much represents the will of a portion of the population. For instance, the new decision coming out on DOMA, the Defense of Marriage Act, will be in Windsor v. United States, which very well could represent either the amount of people who believe in gay marriage and the amount that don't.
Okay. How, if at all, has equal representation in the Senate affected the principle of majority rule?
The equal representation in the Senate is very interesting in that essentially Wyoming has 3 representatives, 2 in the House and 1 in the Senate, which is the same amount that Washington, D.C. has, despite the fact that theirs are not voting members. A vote in Wyoming is essentially equal to 4 votes in California. So this makes the representatives in Wyoming far more powerful, you could say, than the representatives in California.
Under the Articles of Confederation, there was only one legislature and there was equal representation, not proportional representation. So the idea of, what was your question exactly? Sorry.
How, if at all, has equal representation in the Senate affected the principle of majority rule?
Right. So the principle of majority rule was compromised in the creation of our Constitution because of the House of Representatives, which is proportional, and the Senate, which is equal representation.
Doesn't, in a sense, the Senate having equal representation, doesn't it, in a sense, represent majority rule of the states? Because effectively, each state gets 2 votes, and that's more or less that each state has a vote, and then the majority of the states, whatever they want, win in the Senate. Isn't that really consistent with the idea of majority rule?
Yes, it's consistent with the idea of majority rule if you're looking at it on just a state basis. But when you put the 2 houses together, you have the Senate where the majority rule would be on a state basis, and the House where the majority rule would be on a basis of the population, which overall, when a bill is being passed, then doesn't have any form of consistency.
I think the idea or the concept that the Senate is not based on direct proportional to the population means that it's representing the minorities, because the states that have small populations won't be squandered in their views by the larger states that can just overvote them purely by the fact that their population is bigger.
I thought, did you make a mistake when you were talking? Because I thought you said, if I heard correctly, you said that Wyoming had 2 legislators and 1 senator.
That's true.
No.
Two senators.
Two
Oh,
senators.
2 senators, 1 representative. Oh, okay, my
Okay.
apologies.
No apologies, I was afraid that I wasn't listening, and I was like, whoa, did I miss something? I mean, I've only
no,
been
I-
retired a year and a
my
half,
bad.
did I, what happened here? Okay, I just wanted clarification, you were fine. I mean, you weren't, but you gave, yeah, so I just wanted clarification, sorry.
I don't have any more questions.
Okay, well, we're at 5:35, 5:40, so I think we're fine.
Do you want to turn off the camera?
Is it just the 3 of you on the team? No.
No,
Yeah, we have.
Johnston is somewhere else.
Okay.
He ditched us.